think I'm going crazy right now. Donald Trump is launching a sovereign wealth fund in the U.S. So here's a state fund that could potentially buy Bitcoin too. This is so intense. What's happening here? Guys, you really need to pay close attention. Howard Lutnick is standing here next to Donald Trump as he signs the executive order for the sovereign wealth fund. Howard Lutnick is well known that he claims about himself. He has hundreds of millions in Bitcoin and will have billions in Bitcoin after this bull run. The other person standing next to Donald Trump is Scott Bessent, who is also a Bitcoin bull. Guys, what's going on here is intense. The Bitcoin market is going absolutely wild here. Now we suddenly have a massive shift, bullish sentiment here in the Bitcoin market. And this whole thing has total Bitcoin party candle vibes here. Let's fucking go. Now it's really happening. It looks like there's no strategic Bitcoin reserve to expect in the short term here. At least, not on a national level. But maybe Donald Trump is actually going the AB route here. And he's going the route of just creating a sovereign wealth fund here, just like other major nations. And we also know that, for example, the Norwegian sovereign fund, along with other big sovereign funds, they all have Bitcoin. And we're going to take a look. Why Donald Trump is very, very likely, not 100%, confirmed right now that he will also buy Bitcoin. But let me tell you exactly why this is so likely, that Bitcoin is also included here. We're also looking at the outrageous statements here from Donald Trump. It's almost hard to imagine. A few years ago, you wouldn't have been able to imagine it, that Donald Trump is now signing an executive order here. Here are two massive Bitcoin bulls standing next to him. Even Bitcoin maximalists, Donald Trump then talks about why this is huge for the USA, why this will create wealth, why this is just totally amazing. The world is really upside down. Here's a comment on that. Here, Wealth Blumenberg writes, yes, the executive order is coming, and so on. Then there's an interesting comment about that. He says here, if the US government, that is the USA, issues more debt, when we print our own money and buy Bitcoin and the Magnificent Seven stockpile with it, then the bears are going to have to go to therapy. And this is basically it. The tether ships and the people who criticize Bitcoin here, the people who are here scolding Bitcoin, and the folks who have been yelling about it for a really long time. When is the Valhalla candle finally coming? When are we going to see the God candles? And this definitely has God candle level, because this is a force that's coming at us that you can hardly imagine now. Of course, that doesn't mean that 1 million Bitcoin or something like that will be bought right away. With a sovereign wealth fund, there's always diversification involved. But in my opinion, Bitcoin will definitely be part of this. This will be a diversified portfolio, just like it is with other sovereign wealth funds. You just can't avoid Bitcoin these days. And it could be that they're buying Bitcoin directly, like that they just say, okay, hey, for example, we have a 20% Bitcoin allocation, a 10% gold allocation, 20% stockpile, and 20% real estate, and so on, that you just make such a division. But it could also be that Bitcoin comes in indirectly here. For example, when you buy the S&P 500, when you buy the NASDAQ, and of course Bitcoin companies are included like MicroStrategy and other companies as well. Or that you just include MicroStrategy in a broadly diversified portfolio, Riot or whatever other companies there are. But I would even advocate for that they might actually be buying BlackRock ETFs here. So not directly Bitcoin, but indirectly directly Bitcoin. So the most direct form would be if you just have Bitcoin on your own hardware wallet. The second most indirect form would be if you buy Bitcoin through a Bitcoin ETF. And then it would also make sense that the Bitcoin ETFs are now swapping to in-kind. If you're in a sovereign wealth fund, then it's definitely better here when you buy Bitcoin ETFs that are settled in kind. So where you can directly withdraw the Bitcoin or where you can go in and out of Bitcoin. Right now, you always have to go through the fiat rail. So we don't have in-kind ETFs, we have cash-settled ETFs. That would be crazy if that happened already. The preparation was for the sovereign wealth fund. Back then, I used to say that if you're in the sovereign wealth fund, then it's just so much better here if you have in-kind ETFs than if you don't have any in-kind ETFs. And now the in-kind ETFs are coming, it looks like, and on top of that, the sovereign wealth fund is coming too. But hey folks, sit back, enjoy the sun. I'm here at the beach and now we're gonna go inside. What Donald Trump said here in the executive order. Because this is really unbelievable. Guys, it's just an absolute treat for anyone who owns Bitcoin here. But of course for anyone else who owns any tech stocks. Here, Magnificent Seven or whatever, because it's very likely going to be a mix of a lot of high-quality assets that are included in this not stockpile, but sovereign.
This is an executive order. Discharges your Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, and your Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick, to begin a process that will hopefully result in the creation of an American sovereign wealth fund.
It's a very exciting event. We're going to have a sovereign wealth fund, which we've never had. We have a lot of things that create wealth, and you're seeing that over the last 2 weeks. I think we've created more wealth. Other people have created de-wealth, the people, my predecessors. We're creating a lot of wealth. Scott, maybe you'd like to say something about it, and I'd ask also Howard to say something about it.
Maybe you want to say something about that. And I would also ask Howard to say something about that. Brutal when you take a look at this. Into any countries that have certain wealth funds here. These are really huge trillion amounts that really come about here. So it looks like Donald Trump really wants to create wealth here. He's already saying that the previous administration created de-wealth, so they basically created declining prosperity. He wants to create wealth here again. And that's obviously unavoidable. That you include Bitcoin, you can't include any wealth these days. If you just neglect Bitcoin here, and this is going to get very, very interesting, that apparently Donald Trump has on his agenda to create wealth here. And hey, folks, take a look at his advisory team. Look at Howard Lutnick, look at Scott Bessent. They know exactly how to create wealth here. And when you just know how this works, Donald Trump isn't the initiator here. The initiator is actually here. Howard, Lutnick, and Scott Bessent. That's probably very true here. The people who approached Donald Trump and said, hey, Donald Trump, we need to do something for our country. We need to improve something here. Donald Trump gets pitched by them. And then he thinks about it and says, okay, it's either good or bad. Apparently he gets it. It ate it up. He says, now that's good. And for sure, there will definitely be a lot of Bitcoin included here. Or I can't really guarantee it. But it's very, very likely that there's definitely a solid position of Bitcoin included here, either directly or indirectly. And this will create wealth here. Bitcoin is the best wealth-generating machine we've had in the last 15, 16 years. And if Donald Trump wants to generate wealth here, then he will definitely include Bitcoin. There's no way around it. And that's really, really exciting in the end. But hey, check out what Scott Bassett has to say about it. What his statement on that is.
Yes, sir, this is very exciting. We're going to stand this thing up within the next 12 months. We're going to monetize the asset side of the U.S. balance sheet for the American people. We're going to put the assets to work, and I think it's going to be very exciting. We're going to study best practices as done around the world. It'll be a combination of liquid assets, assets that we have in this country as we work to bring them out for the American people.
That's just a little taste. He says there will be different assets. They will be liquid assets. They will be assets that are definitely at home here in America, so Bitcoin is definitely not being ruled out here. You can definitely count Bitcoin among the liquid assets. Bitcoin is a 100% liquid asset. You can trade it 24/7. So it's definitely in the game to include Bitcoin here. He also says that we will monetize the assets here. For the good, for the US citizens basically here. And now the question is, what is meant by monetization here? But when you talk about classic monetization, like if you were to somehow monetize government bonds or something like that, so that actually means that you're taking on debt here to buy assets from it. So that's basically what happens when a system breaks down. You have to monetize your assets. You basically have to take on debt here to pay off your old debts. But you can also play the monetization game differently. You can basically take on debt to simply buy valuable assets here that outperform the interest and the repayment. And that's how you can generate massive wealth here. And maybe it really could be that the stockpile is just a bit more bureaucratically challenging to set up. So a Southern Wealth Fund might be a bit easier to set up. A lot of people just didn't think of that at all. That there is also the possibility. And now he just drops the bomb and says, hey folks, yeah, we're still thinking about the stockpile, but with an executive order, we can set up a Southern Wealth Fund. And I have the biggest Bitcoin maximalist sitting next to me, at least Howard Lutnick. Scott Bessent also has a bit of a shitcoin tendency. There will probably be a few Bitcoins included here as well. Who knows? And now we're just going to put this thing out there, pitch the whole thing. And then over the next 12 months, we'll buy up the place and have a blast. The whole balance sheet is packed with valuable assets. You have to understand, this isn't all going to happen tomorrow. It's going to take a little while until all those assets are actually bought up. And the question is, okay, are you basically buying assets from surpluses here, or is there really monetization happening? Credits exhausted, and then just played through the Michael Gale Saylor playbook and built your own server web fund. So what you're doing here is basically nothing different. Like the Michael Saylor strategy, just on a US level, at least if it really is like that. As I understand it, that maybe even debts will be taken on here, to buy assets here. And now here comes the most exciting part of what Howard Lutnick is saying.
The extraordinary size and scale of the U.S. government and the business it does with companies should create value for American citizens. If we are going to buy 2 billion COVID vaccines, maybe we should have some warrants and some equity in these companies and have that grow for the help of the American people. So I bring all these things together. I think Scott and I will create an amazing sovereign wealth fund for you, sir.
Masks or whatever. And on the other hand, we're not buying any valuable assets. That just doesn't add up. Do we really need to go all in on stocks for the sovereignty of US citizens, for the prosperity of the citizens? On equities, maybe even betting on Bitcoin and stuff like that. Bitcoin wasn't mentioned, or something like that. And that's the crazy part, that so many countries, like Norway for example, they have created a lot of wealth really, really successfully. And folks, I think you don't realize the impact here. What's going on here? What's currently happening, because the person who just spoke, Howard Lutnick, as mentioned, he says about himself that he has several million in Bitcoin. That he's second here. He's the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald and holds a 5% stake in Tether, managing Tether's assets. Tether is the biggest on and off ramp for Bitcoin. Check this out. Howard Lutnick, he's a major player in the Bitcoin scene. And he's directly involved with Donald Trump now to set up a sovereign wealth fund here. So that's just unbelievable. Then we have thirdly, Cantor is launching a Bitcoin financing loan business worth $2 billion US dollars. That Bitcoin would be used as collateral for US loans. And now here comes the craziest part. Donald Trump might even directly use the products from Howard Lutnick. That you can basically leverage with credit here. That you might even be able to collateralize your stuff and so on. Of course, this is a lot of speculation on my part, a lot of wishful thinking and so on. But hey, Howard Lutnick is such a heavyweight and on the other hand, a massive Bitcoin bull. Hey guys, the future could get so crazy. You all aren't bullish enough. Hey, fourth here, yeah, I'm feeling a bit euphoric right now. I need to take a quick break and swap out to the sea here. Here's a quick look at the awesome view. Just need to chill out. For a moment, take a breather. Here, closer. Let's fucking go, son. Now we can continue watching here. Howard Lutnick, what else is he saying here? Now I need to adjust the camera again. Here, fourth, we will build the best. Building a platform for Bitcoin financing. He also said that. So he's not just saying that he has hundreds of millions. He also says about himself, we will build the best Bitcoin platform. Now he's also setting up a sovereign wealth fund here. And how likely is it that Lutnick isn't including any Bitcoin here? I would say almost zero. Then we have fifth, we are Kendall Fitzgerald, and we will support Bitcoin. That's another statement from him. And like I said, the person who's involved here is right next to Donald Trump. Here, it's about building the sovereign wealth fund, not just a strategic Bitcoin reserve.
So other countries have sovereign wealth funds, and they're much smaller countries, and they're not the United States. We have tremendous potential in this country, tremendous. You're seeing that, what's happened just in a short period of time.
So Trump is saying again, the USA has massive potential, and even small countries have sovereign wealth funds. And why shouldn't we do it here in the USA? We can create massive wealth here. So really, absolutely crazy. And now there's something even crazier that I've seen here. And there is here on the 4th. February in Washington at 2:30 p.m. Washington time. There's a meeting to secure America's position as a leader in the digital asset ecosystem. And if we take a look at who's in the game here, then we see David Sachs is in the game. There are also a few other players that are interesting for Bitcoin involved. And that's really interesting in the end, that it's happening in parallel on so many levels here. There are Bitcoin excuses. That means the Sovereign Wealth Fund is now also interesting for Bitcoin. Then the strategic Bitcoin reserve at the state level. Then there's the evaluation, that maybe it could also be done at the state level, so US work. Here, the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Now there's this Congress here. Then there's the crypto team, which is also responsible for better regulation. Hey folks, the future is definitely orange. If you want to buy Bitcoin, I'll put a link down below for you. 21 Bitcoin, how you can easily, safely, and simply buy Bitcoin. With the code Bitcoin, you can still get up to 20% off the fees when buying Bitcoin. And I'm gonna sleep now. I actually wanted to go to sleep. I actually came here to the beach. I wanted to go chill for a bit. I wanted to make videos here all day. I wanted to take a power nap here. I do that every now and then, like a 20-minute nap at noon. Power nap, really the best life. I wanted to take a power nap here. Now I see the breaking news. I just had to put out a video. But I'm done now. I'm gonna sleep now. See you later, folks. See you later. Let me know what you think about the bullish movements. Peace out.